Judy, and she has an amazing story. Talk about courage, talk about chutzpah. I tell you, this woman is amazing. Would you ever just sell your house, buy a motorhome, and say, we're off into the wild blue yonder? Would you ever? I wouldn't. This woman did. And she's going to tell you all about it. And Judy is here with her daughter, Jackie. And yeah, you ready? All right. All right. Is that better? Thank you, Ernie.
It's on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to put this somewhere. I don't know where.
It's fine right there. You can walk
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And I'm sitting down because I've had a dizzy day. So, yeah, those things happen. Well, I'm going to talk about living in the motorhome. I won't talk about all 5 years because that would take about 5 hours at least. And so I won't do that. Jack and I decided to get a motorhome, but that decision didn't come easy. My sister passed away suddenly. She lived in California, and it had been 5 years since I had seen her. Talked to her on the phone a lot, but it wasn't the same. And it just broke my heart. And as I recovered from that, Jack kept saying, well, we need to go see somebody out there that lives in Wyoming. I said, really? So eventually, instead of a houseboat that Jack wanted to get, and I figured, well, you can't tow a car with a houseboat. And so we ended up with a 37-foot Holiday Rambler diesel pusher with a couple of slide outs, and it was fully everything. Had a washer and dryer, we were set. But the other thing that influenced us is, I'll just put this up. This is the house we moved out of. It was a 4-bedroom, had a 3-season porch, three-car garage and a workshop. I mean, we just had it made. I don't know why we didn't stay there, but we didn't. So we moved into the motorhome. And you can't see it very well from this picture. I'll show another one in a bit. Pulled our car. Took us over a year to get ready. We had to pack boxes. I had a huge amount of Tupperware that I got from my sister who had passed away, but she had a bunch of Tupperware because that's what she did for a living. And they sent me that. So I still have some of that. You had to be very careful packing a motorhome. So we had a rule that if we bought anything new, we had to get rid of something old. So that's what we did as we traveled. That was hard. There were storage units underneath that you accessed from the outside. So I took my sewing machine. I had all my scrapbooking things that I wanted to do, and Jack had all his stuff. It was packed. On Labor Day weekend, 1997, we pulled out of the driveway, pulled our car, and went to the campground. And it was dark when we arrived. And that's scary because the motor was a diesel motor. It was very loud. The lights were bright. I thought, oh, everybody's going to hate us. But nobody said a thing. And we started our life that way. And you know, when we turned the motor off and got out of our seats and looked, we went, what have we done? Because we couldn't even get back to the bedroom because the aisle was full of boxes. So we decided that our first summer we worked, stayed in Minnesota and worked. out of the motorhome. I worked in a nursing home, and Jack sold long-term care insurance. And so we had to have a desk, and he had a friend make this desk for him, and it was well used, trust me. It was very good. There I am inside the motorhome. Yeah, okay, so that's 5, this is 6. There I am sitting at the desk. I look very happy, don't I? I was happy. This was a big decision, and most of our friends said, oh gosh, how do you get along? How do you stand living in that tight space with this man 24/7? And I said, well, I don't know, we've been married a long time, and we get along. So I won't tell you about the times I got angry with him, and he got angry with other things, usually not me. And I had to settle him down a bit, but really we got along just fine and loved being together. That was, and deciding where to go and playing the music that you want to listen to going down the highway. And I learned to drive this thing, pulling a car. So we get to Florida the first year, and this is one of my favorite things to do, is go to the park and feed the blue jays, the Florida jays. It was so much fun, and they'd get on your head, so you had to wear a cap, because you know what birds do. And so this was something I liked to do, and I took this picture somehow with this hand and feeding the birds. They weren't afraid of us. Now that's banned, and you can't feed the birds anymore. One of the very funnest, is that a word? Fun things that we did is go on a sailing trip with some friends. These friends arranged the trip on a boat in the British Virgin Islands, and it was called the Promenade. It was a tri-hull, and it slept 8 guests. Now that didn't count the staff. The staff always cooked all our meals. We had happy hour. It was a wonderful experience. We went snorkeling. There we are loading our stuff onto the boat. Of course, we couldn't wear shoes, and everybody's pretty loaded down. I don't know how we got everything on the boat, but we did. And there we were having dinner. We had gourmet food every night. Honestly, it was fantastic. I've heard that this boat no longer is in existence, and that's a shame. This was Jack's favorite spot to ride the waves. He loved the water, and he loved to be in this boat. And we went to, it's called the Baths. I don't know if any of you've ever been down to the British Virgin Islands. It's not like the Bath in England. We had to go out in a boat, anchor the boat, and swim in to get to the island that had the baths on it. And they were like big caves almost, made out of rock. It was very interesting. Okay, I'll skip that. That's you. You're next. But before I do that, I want to make sure I'm hitting all the points. The sailing, Florida Jays. Yeah, we spent time in Florida that year with so many relatives, and Jackie can attest to how many relatives. My mom and dad, my brother, Jack's brother, Jack's sister, cousins, aunts and uncles. Honestly, they were everywhere. And you know who lives down there now? My brother and Jack's sister. And that's all there is. So it's like, I don't want to go to Florida. But anyway, that's what we did. And then we came back to Minnesota that year, and I forget why we went out to Colorado.
Dad was doing a seminar.
Jack was still doing seminars, so he had one in Iowa. We did one there, and went to Colorado for an RV something. I forget what it's called. And Jackie went with us. That was such a gift to take our daughter in the motorhome all the way out to Colorado. Got to see the sand dunes. And, come on, that's the sand dunes. That other picture wasn't the sand dunes. And people would take paper slides or plastic slides and slide down the sand dunes. I didn't do that. Then we stopped on the way back in Iowa and saw the bridges of Madison County. That was a popular book at the time. And it was very interesting and fun to see all these covered bridges. And that's our daughter, Jackie. And, while we were in Colorado, I forgot, we went to the Renaissance grounds, which it was near Denver, Colorado Springs, in that area somewhere. And our son had gone out there to work the Renaissance and was involved in building this house. So he helped with putting some of the facilities on the grounds together, and he also did that in Arizona. But I thought it was a pretty cute little house, or big house, I don't know. And the grounds were neat. The festival wasn't going on at that time. In Iowa, I believe, we got to see John Wayne's house, where he was born. Now, probably there's a lot of John Wayne fans here, and I could have had more pictures, but I don't. But I thought the house was rather cute. It's kind of a different shape, and still standing. So there were good and bad times in the motorhome, and I've told you about the good times. The bad times came along when something would happen. First of all, our motorhome was in our driveway at our house, and it got a flat tire. So, okay, I call them up and I say, my motorhome is in the driveway. It has a flat tire, needs someone to change it. So they send a little guy with a little tiny, whatever, to change the tire. And he said, I don't think I could do this. And I said, no, you're right. So with things like that, we weren't the first ones to start full-timing. A lot of people were full-timers. We met so many good friends. The other thing that happened on this trip was that the tow bar that connected the car had flexible, pieces, and it stuck. Well, then you can't drive it and pull the car because you will ruin the tires on the car. So we stopped on an entrance to a freeway, pulled over as far as we could. And that's one of the times that I had to do this to Jack. Because the truck drivers were honking at us, and those horns are loud. And he was nervous, we're in the way. Well, we weren't in the way, we're on the grass, just relax. We called somebody, we unhooked everything and got it all, and he went and found a place that fixed those tow bars, for crying out loud, in that area of the country, and off we go. And I mentioned that I learned how to drive it, and I did, and I drove it a lot because I could see him getting tired. You've been there. So I would drive, and he'd promptly go to sleep. And one time I was driving in Tennessee, and that was on this trip, driving and trying to keep up with the trucks, and just, I was a nervous wreck because there were trucks everywhere, and we were going so fast. I said, Jack, wake up. I can't drive this. You got to take it over. And he said, no, just slow down. You don't need to keep up with the trucks. I went, oh, really? You know, he just knew what to do, and we were fine. It wasn't a problem. So, do you have any questions?
The hurricane stuff, the tornado stuff.
Oh, the tornado. I forgot about the tornado. We got to Florida, went to see the nighttime launch. Did I mention that? And shortly after that, it was sometime in December, there was a tornado in Kissimmee. Well, we just piled everything, you know, in the motorhome. Of course, it's already in the motorhome, but we locked everything down and took off for Kissimmee, found a place to hook up. We got hooked up with Salvation Army. We went to Red Cross, and they said, no, we don't have any place for you. Went to Salvation Army, and they said, oh yeah, we got lots to do. Well, this was only a tiny bit of the damage that was done in Kissimmee. It was, one of the things that we did was kind of tour the neighborhood and see who was in the house and if it was livable and if there was anything we could do to help. Well, there was an older couple that lived in a 2-story house, and we could see the windows were boarded up and it had been damaged. So we went up there, and she said, oh, I could use your help. Everything's a mess. So we started working, and I said, where's your husband? Did he get hurt? Oh, no, he didn't get hurt. He had to go to work. Oh, sure. Guy has to go to work. Anyway, he was a lawyer. He had to go to work. But the bedroom he was sleeping in, we saw it. The bed he was actually in had a big tree that came right over him, and somehow missed him. And he was able to go to work. So my job there was to clean out the refrigerator. It was pretty bad. Pretty bad. Yes, hi.
What year was that tornado?
That tornado would have been in 97 or 98, in the winter of 97, 98.
Okay, now what about Disney?
I'm sorry, I can bear. I'm not hearing her.
By Disney. Was it by Disney?
I don't know. I just know it was Kissimmee. But it was really something. The one place we went, the woman said, yeah, you see that tree out there? It was half gone. And she said that they discovered a mattress in that tree, and there was a child on the mattress, and the child was alive. Whew, the devastation was incredible. Okay, hi. Are you going to take questions, or do you have a question?
Judy, did I miss it, or what was the size of your motorhome?
The size of our motorhome at that time was 37 feet.
37.
Yeah.
But they upgraded.
Oh, we upgraded.
Yeah, we kept that for 2 years, and then we got a.
Pull the car plus that, right?
Yep. Yep. We just motorhome and car.
Judy, when you would make stops, like when you were traveling, how long would, on average, when you were in different places, how long did you stay? Or did you just stay a couple days and keep moving, or?
Well, it would really depend on if we had an end goal. Like we drove from Indiana to somewhere in Kentucky, and we stayed a couple days. And then we drove over to South Carolina, where our friends lived, and stayed there probably 4 or 5 days.
But not like not like 6 months at a time?
In Florida, we would stay longer.
Oh,
When we'd go to California, we would stay a little bit longer, but not months, just weeks.
you saw a lot of country.
Yeah, we did. And go ahead.
How long did it take you to set it up at each stop?
When we stopped, not very long. It took us a little while at the beginning. So you learned how to do all the connections and everything, but you had to make sure you had the right power outlet and all that. But it didn't take, it was water, sewer, and power mainly, and leveling. So we'd level it first, and then we would hook it up, and then we'd make sure everything worked.
They had a whole system down by the time they had done this for a while. So when I was traveling, we'd pull up and say, well, what can I do? And they were doing each thing and they were done. I'm like, okay. So, yeah, pretty efficient.
How about your mail? Were you able to get that?
That's a good question. It depended where we were going, and at first we didn't know some of this stuff. So mainly it went to our daughters, and she sent it on to us wherever we would say we were going to be. And later on, there was a service. Can't remember the name of it now, but a mail service that you had all your mail go there, and then they would forward it where you wanted them to forward it. So when we went out west, we did use that a little bit. But Jackie was great. Yes, Ernie?
Did you folks ever have to change a flat tire out in the middle of nowhere?
No. No.
You were lucky.
Yes, we were very lucky. First of all, Ernie, it doesn't happen on a motorhome. And so if you get a flat tire out in the middle of nowhere, you call somebody to come to the middle of nowhere. And that's all there is to it, because you can't do it. Just imagine jacking that thing up.
Any other questions?
I think we covered just about everything. You know, I have so many more experiences, and maybe when we get together sometime we'll talk about those. But we went to Wyoming, had a wonderful visit out there. At the end of our first year, we had touched bases with 50 other people that we hadn't seen for a while. And I know that because I kept track. Because of before we left home, I bought a map of the US, and we put little pins where all the people lived that we wanted to see. Well, I went, Jack, we'll never make it, you know. But we did, and kept removing those little pins, and we got to see cousins that we hadn't seen for years. Well, the cousin in Wyoming, I never met. He knew her, and she was married to a sculptor named Richard Greaves. He's famous. If you look him up, he has sculptures everywhere in the US. Does a lot of Indian sculptures, and he was on the Indian reservation, Fort Washakie Indian Reservation in Wyoming. Anyway.
When you
digress.
left, Judy, before you left, did you have a time where you said, let's reevaluate this in 6 months and see how it's going, or did you just go?
Well, we just go.
Okay.
We just kind of knew what we were doing. My parents did the same thing.
Okay.
That may have been a trickle down to me. And interestingly enough, my daughter and her new husband have just purchased a fifth wheel. So the saga continues. But
Would you do it again?
you know, yes and no. I loved the experience of doing it, and At the end of 5 years, I knew it was long enough. We'd done it enough. We were in Florida, and I said, I want a house that doesn't have wheels, and I want to be close to my parents. And so we spent quality time with my parents during those last few years, and I'll never regret that. No, you know I didn't. I was talking to someone at dinner, and I don't know, he said they were in something like 48 states or something, I don't know. I never added it up, but I will. I'll let you know, Tom. But we didn't get way northeast or way northwest. Those are two areas that I regret that we did not get to, but timing wasn't right. We went to Pennsylvania, and we had a problem there and had to have the motorhome towed to an RV place to be fixed. And that kind of put a damper on going any farther north. We were there in the fall. We didn't want to get stuck in the snow, and so we had to kind of, let that go. But we pretty much got to most of them, and some of them are quite boring.
Well, thank you very much, Judy. We appreciate it. We learned.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I admire you